Well, hello. I want to start this week's video with a question. Do you have anyone in your life, any relationship, could be romantic, could be not romantic, could be friends, who that person constantly keeps you off balance, right? They're always surprising you with like negative curveballs, right? Raising your anxiety for no apparent reason, really just leaving you feeling badly about yourself. My name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist. I am a relationship expert and the founder of the Real Love Revolution. And that, my friend, describes a toxic relationship. So, what I want to talk about today is more stuff about toxic relationships. What are they? And how can you identify if you're in one? And then we'll talk about how to change it, and not about how to change the other person, how to change your dance in a toxic relationship, because actually there's a way. Like, you don't have to stay in toxic relationships. It's kind of amazing that you have the power to leave. So a couple of lists. I'm going to give you just a bunch of things to think about in your relationships. And this could be friendships, could be siblings, could be work relationship, could be your boss. And even if someone has power over you, you still have power to draw appropriate boundaries. Again, not changing the other person, just you deciding for you how you're going to be in this situation. If your relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, if it's all you giving and them taking, that's one indication. If there's a hostile atmosphere, right? If there's constant anger, that's unhealthy. Like, someone who's in a constant state of hostility is not good for you. If there's lack of trust, right? What do they say? That, a relationship without trust is like a car without gas. Honestly, without trust, you're never actually going anywhere. If you feel drained from a relationship where you spend time with that person and you're like exhausted when you're done, they're like, I call them also energy vampires, because there are people who it is all take and no give, but they require so much for you to just spend time with them. And what about feeling constantly judged? Right? It's really not about someone who's trying to help you be better, wanting you to be better. It really is with the expressed desire to belittle you, as opposed to, because we could hear about constructive criticism. That's not what we're talking about. The narcissism, someone who's nonstop narcissistic, that is really depressing, right? Loaded with negative energy. The relationship itself, it's almost impossible for anything positive to come out of a relationship that has so much negativity in it. Okay, in toxic relationships, there's all kinds of communication disasters, right? Lack of communication or faulty communication, so that then you can be blamed that you didn't respond appropriately. It's almost like being set up constantly by someone. Just the never-ending drama. In these types of relationships, they're really noisy. There's a lot required from you, even if you don't want to give it. So never-ending drama is always like a really terrible time. It's like a bad sign in a relationship. And if you find yourself changing your opinions, right, to please someone else, to please your partner or your boss, that is a damaging relationship where there's absolutely no room, and a lot of toxic relationships, for you to actually be yourself, for you to be present, because they don't care. A toxic relationship has a lot of uncertainty. You don't know where you stand with that person. It's like every day you're figuring out, like, is it a good day or a bad day? Brimming with envy, right? Someone in a toxic relationship, and toxic people are envious people. They're always focusing out about how everyone else is an idiot, and also victimhood. Toxic people are such victims, and it's so well, it's not true. So let's start with that. But it's so exhausting, because you end up being the person trying to convince them that their view of the world, it's not that bad and things are okay. Especially if you're a codependent or you're a fixer, you're always trying to be like, it's not as bad as you think, The relationship itself, there's tons of dishonesty. So it goes back to the no trust. But trust, there's many ways that trust comes out. And if someone feels free to boldface lie to you, we know that that is a problem, that something is wrong if your partner or even your sister or a friend or a coworker is just says whatever it is that they want to say to get what they want. There's no way that you can have a real conversation with anyone if they lie. And you feel uncomfortable around toxic people. Do you ever have that feeling that you're walking on eggshells, or that you are on pins and needles, that you have to be walking on eggshells because you never know when that person is going to explode or what is going to basically set them off? And aren't those enough reasons for you to not be in a relationship with someone with all of these things? And you know what? You feel like they bring out the worst in you as opposed to bringing out the best in you. And that's really depressing, because it's almost like I feel like my power as a human, and probably yours too, is that no matter how someone else behaves, no one has the power to make me act below my own level of integrity. And when you're in a toxic relationship, they can bring out the worst in you to the point where you may do things that you think about later that you're really ashamed of or embarrassed about, because that's how low the person has brought you. And I'm not blaming them, right? Because now we're going to move into what you can do about it. But I just wanted to give you a little touchstones that you can think about. And the last one we'll talk about is that you feel like you can't do anything right. If you're in a relationship where you feel like there's always some way that they think you could improve on what you're doing, that's probably a toxic relationship. So now that you've established it, do you have any that have come to mind? Do you feel like you know what relationships in your life are toxic? And hey, maybe you already knew this. That may not be news, but most people, at least when psychotherapeutic clients who come in to see me, will say, well, I can't change the other person, and so I'm not going to, and if I can't talk to them. And my feeling is that's true, but all relationships are a dance. And so if we're related to people who are toxic, it's one thing to have toxic friends that you can kind of break up with. You can break up with toxic family members as well, but it takes more thought. It takes more time. It's more complicated. And if you're in a marriage or a love relationship, that's complicated too, right? So it's not about changing the other person. In relationships where there's a blood relationship or you're already married, you want to put in the effort to see, if I change my steps of my dance, will this person change? And I promise you they will change. I just can't promise you what that change will look like, right? Will it be better? Well, I certainly hope so, but I don't know. So there's some ideas of what you can do. Listen, you can always try to tell the person how you feel. Like, you want to, at least for yourself, know that you have done the best that you can. And you can do it gently, even if you're frustrated. You can go into it, because sometimes people, like let's say it's a coworker, they may not be fully aware of what they're doing or how what they're doing is impacting you. So I feel like if you can find the right words and go in there and just talk about the way that you feel, like make a simple request that they stop doing whatever it is. The second thing you can try to do is set limits. As I said before, even if it's your boss, right? You should be able to assert yourself, right? And what does it mean to be assertive? That's the best. And that's the place right in between. It's the healthy place in between being too passive and being too aggressive. Assertive doesn't have a lot of heat. It's just there's a firmness when you're assertive that feels really good. So let's say you have a boss who's a yeller. Maybe they just yell in life, You can still listen. If they have power over you and you need to do what they're yelling about, you can make a simple request. Hey, I don't mind you asking me or even telling me what it is I need to do, but I would like you to do it respectfully, please. Some people actually are so oblivious, they don't even know. They don't even know that they're doing it. And as long as you know that you've done the best that you can by making a simple request, that's all you can do. And you might be surprised that person may say, wow, I didn't even realize I was acting aggressively. I'm really sorry. Or totally no problem. And you'll feel so much better because your healing comes from having the courage to draw the boundaries that you need to draw in your life so that toxic relationships don't run free, right? So that you don't just invite all these toxic people into your life. Your healing, it's not about what the toxic person does, because you'll make your next move based on what the toxic person does. So in a toxic relationship, another thing that you can do is be very mindful of your own responses, because again, this is a dance. So instead of you doing the same dance that encourages this dance that you don't want to do, don't react. Don't let them push your buttons in the way that they have in the past. So just take a deep breath. Just don't react. Take time, because it's really that dynamic that you're trying to change, where they do something, then you do something, and now you feel like you've been dragged into the toxic mud that you would like to avoid, you know? Excuse me. Ending the toxic relationship, of course, is the last thing that you can do. How to do it? Listen, ending any relationship can be really difficult, but the decision is really yours to make about how you want to do it, when to do it. Have that be your last step, because you have to remember, a lot of these relationships, it's not about vilifying the other person. A lot of them, you are in a relationship with this person because you love them, right? Or because you care about them. I don't mean like coworkers. I just mean in your life. And so it's really worth the effort to get your own healthy language on, for you to be effectively communicating in these relationships, because so much of the time you feel victimized when you're in a relationship with a toxic person. But you have to remember that you are 50% of every toxic relationship in your life. You're doing half of that dance. So the real question is, what dance do you want to do? And what are you willing to change for that dance to be different? Because a lot of the time it has to be you, because it's your life. Are you willing to change? Are you willing to be brave, to do something different in your life? Are you willing to be brave? Because this is what's required. Because listen, we can't end every single we could, of course, end every single relationship, but that's not healthy, and I don't want you to do that. I want you to have the skills to be able to speak your mind, to say what it is that you would like, and then make decisions accordingly. Because this is a really healthy way of having relationships in your life. You don't want to be 50% of a toxic relationship. And as much as it's so much easier in some ways to think of it that it's all them, if that person is very aggressive. But if you stay, then that's your 50%. And of course, I don't want that for you, and you don't want that for you. So there is going to be a little list of how to identify if you're in a toxic relationship, just so you can get it's like a cheat sheet, and then the ideas of what you can do if you are in one. What do I think your ideas are? Like, what ideas I have for you to make the changes that you want to make in your life. So I hope that you enjoyed this Real Love Revolution video about how to identify toxic relationships and then what to do to change that situation. I hope you guys have an amazing, healthy week, and I will see you right here next week. As always, take care of you.